What are the instructions that are going to be read to a jury in the event of a jury trial for a wrongful death case? Well, this is important because the instructions read to the jury are read by the judge, and ultimately, when the jury goes back in the deliberations room and they're trying to decide the verdict on your wrongful death case, they're going to hear these instructions. Now, they're going to hear instructions with regards to carelessness, negligence. They're going to hear instructions. They're going to hear a lot of different instructions, but with regards to the damages, which is what I want to talk about, with regards to the damages for the wrongful death case, there's one particular jury instruction that I wanted to focus in on, because this is the instruction that is the most relevant for the biggest part of the damages in many wrongful death cases, and that is the jury instruction for mental pain and suffering. Okay, the jury instruction says the mental pain and suffering of the plaintiff as a result of the injury and death of the decedent from the date of the injury is an element of the damages. Okay? In determining the duration of the mental pain and suffering, you may consider the life expectancy of the plaintiff together with the other evidence in the case. So in other words, let's say, for example, you've got a plaintiff. For example, I tried a case one time where my client was an adult parent of an adult child, and my client's life expectancy was actually at issue. In other words, the defense was trying to make a big deal out of the fact that my client was not had certain ailments, and they were hinting to the jury that maybe he wasn't going to live that long. The jury didn't see it that way, but ultimately that's what they argued, or that's what they kind of insinuated by bringing up my client's physical ailments. And they do that because it's relevant to the amount of time that my client, for example, was going to have to endure suffering, living a life knowing that his daughter and the life of his daughter had been ripped away from him due to the negligence of somebody else. Okay. It says, in determining the duration of any future loss sustained by the plaintiff by reason of the death of the decedent, you may consider his life expectancy. The mortality tables received in evidence may be considered together with other evidence in the case bearing on his or her health, age, and physical condition in determining how he or she may be expected to live, or how long he or she may be expected to live. So in one particular case that I had, a wrongful death case that I took to trial, the jury ended up returning a verdict. So the verdict form is going to be separated. The question on the verdict form in dealing with mental pain and suffering is going to be separated between past pain and suffering and future pain and suffering. And so past pain and suffering means the pain and suffering that the survivor had to endure as a result of the death, or from the moment that the loved one was injured until the moment the verdict comes out. So from the moment the loved one was injured until the moment the verdict comes out, that is the pain and suffering, that's past pain and suffering. And then they have to make a determination about the survivor's future pain and suffering. I had a case one time where the defendants or the jury decided that my client's wrongful death, pain, and suffering for past damages was $1 million, and they gave $4 million for future pain and suffering. And they basically determined that my client was going to live another 20 years, and they gave him $200,000 per year for having to live knowing that his daughter was no longer with us. So that's basically how it works. And so it's probably one of the most painful experiences a human being has to suffer, knowing not only that their loved one has died prematurely, but also that it has happened at the hands of because of the negligence of somebody else. And that's a super important element of somebody's pain and suffering. And so the past pain and suffering, the future pain and suffering are huge factors in determining the value of the case. and the jury verdict form is very simple, but it allows the jury to consider those elements. Thanks.